Hello everybody, it's Noncy News here, and today we've got a lot of breaking days today. And the first news we're going to be talking about today is coming from the United States, where we've just got a news today that the United States Marines have just arrived at the southern border, which we were talking about in the previous video, with Mexico, to bolster border security and stop the illegal immigrants from crossing the border. So about 1,500 troops, including 500 Marines from the Camp Pendleton, were just deployed to the border by the Trump administration on the border with Mexico. According to officials, this is just likely the beginning. A senior military official told CNN that this number could actually reach 10,000 troops or Marines to the border of Mexico to stop the illegal immigrants from crossing into the country. We've also just got news today that the White House press secretary has just announced deportation flights for illegals, and it has just begun. So you can see here in your bottom left corner, we can actually see deported migrants arrive back into Mexico, and now apparently these illegal migrants are now encouraging others not to come to the United States illegally. So it seems that the deportation is now going to be going in full swing, with the first planes now with full of illegal migrants arriving back into Mexico. So very big news. We've also just got news today that the US has just gotten a new Secretary of Defense, and that is Pete Hegseth. So the US Senate has just confirmed Pete Hegseth as the new Secretary of Defense, as Vice President J.D. Vance was casted at the tie-breaking vote. So there was 50 yeses and there's 50 noes to Pete Hegseth becoming the Defense Secretary of the United States, and J.D. Vance was actually called to arrive to the Senate to cast his vote to break the tie-break, and he voted yes. So Pete Hegseth is now the Secretary of Defense of the United States, and if you can see this video here in your bottom left corner, we can actually see J.D. Vance swearing in Pete Hegseth as the US Secretary of Defense. So big news. We've also got news today that Donald Trump has just held a call with the Danish Prime Minister on Greenland, and reports are saying it was a horrible. So Trump called with the Danish Prime Minister on Greenland, and it was told to be a cold shower that signaled serious US intent to acquiring the island, the Financial Times reported. So during the 45-minute call, the Danish Prime Minister confirmed Greenland's decision to become independent, but a person familiar with the content of the call said that Trump's tariff threats left the Danes in crisis mode and freaked out. So according to the Danish officials, Donald Trump is actually serious. So they didn't think he was serious at the start, but according to the latest reports, Donald Trump is very serious about acquiring Greenland to become a part of the United States. And obviously, let's just do some more research into Greenland. So one of the reasons you'd think the US could gain Greenland, or why Donald Trump has an interest in Greenland, is one of security. Obviously, Russia holds a big foothold in the Arctic Sea, and as Donald Trump stated, Greenland gets surrounded by Russian and both Chinese warships. And if we can just see this graph here in the bottom left corner, this graph is actually showing the most rare earth minerals in the world. China is leading by far. US is a bit down, but Greenland is also on the board. So Greenland has 1.5% of the world's rarest earth metals. So that could be another reason why Donald Trump could want Greenland, and this will nearly double the United States rare earth metals. So very big news. We've also got news today that Donald Trump has just lifted Biden's hold on 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. So Trump has just instructed the Pentagon to release a shipment of 2,000-pound bombs to Israel, overturning a hold imposed during the President Biden's term. So the 1,800 Mk-84 bombs stored in the US are now set to be delivered to Israel by sea in the coming days. So Donald Trump has just released the lifts on Israel now using 2,000 bombs, 2,000-pound bombs on whoever. So if you don't know what happens when a 2,000-pound bomb hits a building, this is it. So you can see here, these bombs do serious damage. It's a very big piece of news we've gotten today. And we've also got news that came out, I'm pretty sure 2 days ago or yesterday now, that Donald Trump did sign the executive order to declassify the JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King files. And we've also got news that on the Martin Luther King, the family has provided well, the family is now asking the US government for the opportunity to review the files as a family before its public release. So this is coming from Martin Luther King's family as a response to Donald Trump's order to declassify the assassination files. We've also just got news today that New York City has gone 5 days without a shooting for the first time in 30 years. So you can completely search this up. I did not know this. I'm not a US citizen. I've never been to the States. But I found that very crazy that with 5 days, in 30 years, New York hasn't gone 5 days without a shooting. And you can search this up. It's been reported anywhere. So big news. We've also got news that the US President Donald Trump claims he's receiving signals that Putin is ready to meet with him. The US President also said that he's unsure if sanctions will bring Russia to negotiate with Ukraine, but stated a deal is necessary. Putin actually, we just got news that Putin stated that he wanted to meet with the US President Donald Trump and discuss issues of interest to Moscow and Washington. The leader, Putin, added that he and Trump have always maintained a business-like relationship and emphasized that the Kremlin has never refused to engage with the White House. And the next news we're going to be talking about today is coming from Russia. We've got news that Putin believes that he has already achieved his main goals in Ukraine, including weakening the Ukrainian armed forces and gaining control over the territory connecting mainland Russia with Crimea. This is reported by Reuters, citing Kremlin sources. So Putin is now increasingly concerned about the state of the Russian economy, Reuters also reports. So Putin is claiming that the main objectives of this war in Ukraine have already been completed, and he's basically saying that he wouldn't be sad if the war were to end now. Russia has achieved most of its objectives in the war in Ukraine. We've also got news that Russia considers it necessary to resume disarmament talks as soon as possible. This was reported by the Kremlin spokesman Peskov on Trump's words about the possible reduction of nuclear arsenal of Russia and the United States. The press secretary of the Russian president noted that the United States has ended its participation in the treaty and undermined it. So again, Russia is ready to disarm, according to the Kremlin spokesman Peskov. We've also got news that about 450,000 people signed contracts to serve in the Russian armed forces in 2024, and more than 40,000 people volunteered for the war in Ukraine. So this was reported by the ex-president of Russia, Medvedev. I think that's how you pronounce his name, but interesting news. We've also got news today that no peace treaty with Japan is going to be signed due to Tokyo's unfriendly course since 2022. So this was stated by the Russian foreign minister. So if you didn't know what happened in the Second World War, and I might be a bit wrong with this, but I believe the United States asked the Soviet Union then to invade Japan during the Second World War, to invade Manchukuo and reclaim the lands here. And they did this, and the war obviously ended with the nuclear blast of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So after the war, after the World War II, there was actually no peace treaty with Japan, between Russia and Japan, and it still is this today. So we've just got news coming from the Russian foreign minister that no peace treaty with Japan is possible due to Tokyo's unfriendly course since 2022. So very interesting. So Russia won't be actually signing a peace treaty with Japan in the near future, it seems, but obviously they're not actually at war, but under actual law, they could possibly still be at war, but obviously they're not fighting each other. So, due to none of them actually signing the treaty in 1945, we've also gotten some news that Berlin will not participate in the victory parade in Moscow, the German ambassador to Russia has stated. So this will be I'm pretty sure, the 80th anniversary of victory over Germany during the Second World War. And we've also actually got news that Israel might actually be attending the victory parade, along with North Korea and many other countries around the world will be attending the 80th victory parade in Moscow. We've got some news coming from Finland today that the Finnish military intelligence has just warned that Russia's massive military reforms could pose a serious threat to Finland. Moscow plans to expand its forces by 350,000 soldiers, with 50,000 to be stationed in the Leningrad military district near Finland. By the time the war in Ukraine ends, this could increase the presence from 30,000 troops to 80,000 troops. Additionally, the Northern Fleet 14th Army Corps in Murmansk, so here, will be expanded, and new brigades and divisions will be established in this region. So Finland is warning that after the war, after Russia's military reforms, Russia will be expanding a lot. It will be putting at least another 30,000 or 40,000 troops on the Finnish border. So interesting news. We've also got some news coming from Ukraine today that North Korea intends to deliver at least 150 KN-23 short-range ballistic missiles, along with artillery shells and systems, to Russia in 2025. This was according to Bondanov, the head of Ukraine's defense intelligence. We've also got news that Ukraine has rejected Russia's demands to abandon NATO membership, and the Ukrainian foreign minister stated this is utter bullshit. Ukraine won't abandon NATO membership. So, big news. We've also got news today that the Ukrainian commander-in-chief, Syrskyi, stated that the Kursk offensive won't be our last offensive. So, at least the Ukrainian armed forces are planning to do one major offensive into maybe Russia or somewhere across in the front line before the war ends. So, according to the Ukrainian commander-in-chief, Syrskyi, the Kursk offensive won't be the last offensive on the Ukrainian side. We've also got news that the NATO Secretary General has announced that Europe will finance purchase of American weapons for Ukraine. Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, stated that we need the US to continue supporting Ukraine, and if a new Trump administration is willing, Europe will cover the costs. So, if Trump completely ceases support to Ukraine by military equipment, NATO will actively buy American equipment to send it over to Ukraine. We've also got news today coming from Slovakia that a series of protests called the Slovakia is Europe are taking place in many cities in Slovakia against the Prime Minister Robert Fico, who's the current Prime Minister of Slovakia, and his government yesterday. So we can see here there was about 60,000 people who protested around Slovakia, and mainly in the capital city, in the protest called Slovakia is Europe, not Russia. So they're claiming that Slovakia is not Russia and it should act like it's a part of Europe and not Russia. So this is what the protests are about. So very interesting news. And we've also gotten some big news coming from the breakaway province of Transnistria. So protests around Transnistria has started, with people demanding Transnistria to get gas supplies from Moldova amid an energy crisis. So if you remember in yesterday's video, Moldova has actually offered the breakaway province of Transnistria gas supplies in this huge energy crisis in Transnistria, as Russian gas to Europe has been cut off from Ukraine's territory. So protests have erupted across Transnistria on Friday, with residents of the separatist region demanded Moldovan authorities to provide gas supplies amid an ongoing energy crisis. prices. So if you remember, Russia's Gazprom has halted all supplies to Transnistria on January the 1st, citing a 709 million debt dispute with Moldova. The Kremlin, so Russia, has blamed Moldova and Ukraine for the disruptions of gas supplies to Transnistria, which is causing a huge energy crisis in the breakaway province, which have left about 400,000 residents without heating or hot water. So now people in Transnistria are now demanding that the breakaway province's leaders take this opportunity of Moldova to take the free supplies. So very interesting news. And we've also got some news that pretty much surprised no one. There's obviously, as you probably all know, there's been an election in Belarus where the Belarusian president Lukashenko has yet again has won the presidential elections in Belarus with an 87.6% of votes. So, if you guys remember, President Lukashenko has been in office since 1994. So, Lukashenko has been in office for many years, and it seems that he'll continue to be in office with many years with this 87.6% of the votes in his favor. So, very interesting news, which again, pretty much, I would say, surprised no one. And after he was elected, the Belarusian president Lukashenko stated that the new Russian missile tech called the Oreshnik missile will be in Belarus soon, said the Belarusian president Lukashenko. So, big news. We've also gotten a very close encounter between a Russian fighter and an Italian F35 over the Baltic Sea. So we can see here in your bottom left corner, we can see an F35 extremely close to what is apparently been seen as a Russian pilot filming the F35 close to his jet. So there's been an extremely close encounter with Russian and NATO jets in the Baltic Sea. There was reports that the Russian pilot was flying an Su-35 jet when the Italian F-35 jet intercepted the Russian jet for being too close to, I believe, Lithuanian airspace from its Kaliningrad region. So there's been an extremely close counter between Russian and Italian fighter jets over the Baltic Sea. We've also got news that an underwater fiber optic cable connecting Latvia and Sweden has been destroyed. So yet again, another communication wire has been severed in the Baltic Sea. This has to be, I'm pretty sure, the third or the fourth time this has happened now. So an undersea fiber optic cable between Latvia and Sweden was damaged on Sunday, likely as a result of external influence, Latvia said. This has triggered an investigation by local and NATO maritime forces in the Baltic Sea. So the Latvian Prime Minister stated that we have determined that there is most likely an external damage and that it is significant. So very big news. So we've got another communication cable has been severed in the Baltic Sea. We've also got news today coming from Poland that the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has promised consequences to his Hungarian counterpart Viktor Orban if he blocks EU sanctions against Russia. Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland, stated that if Orban really blocks the European sanctions at a crucial moment for the war, it will be absolutely clear that in this great game for the security and the future of Europe, he is playing on Putin's team and not ours. So Donald Tusk didn't actually specify what he would do to Hungary if Hungary actually blocks European sanctions at this moment of the war, but he only said consequences. And if we remember, Viktor Orban said that he would block the sanctions on Russia if Ukraine fulfills a number of conditions. And the next news we're going to be talking about today is coming from Germany, where we've just gotten news that Elon Musk is now claiming the upcoming election in Germany could decide the fate of Europe, or just maybe the fate of the world. Elon Musk is now calling for people, the German people, to vote for the AfD party in Germany. So this is seen as a very far right-wing party, a political party in Germany, and Elon Musk is now calling the German people to vote for the AfD party. When the leader of the AfD party held a rally, Elon Musk called in and he talked to the audience and stated that the German people should vote for the AfD party. So he's probably going to get a lot of backlash from many European presidents around the world because of that. We've also got news today that Armenia's parliamentary commission has just approved the draft law for the country's accession into the European Union. The draft will be reviewed by the parliament between February 11th and February 14th. So Armenia has yet again done another step to the European Union's path. And the next news we'll be talking about today is coming from Israel and Gaza. We've just got news today that Hamas has released another batch of hostages. So Hamas has announced the release of 4 female IDF hostages that were taken from the October 7th attack. So you can see here in the bottom left corner, these are the hostages that were released. So 4 female IDF hostages. And we've also later seen footage of these hostages actually reuniting with their family. So we've gotten a bit of good news today regarding that. And Hamas will release a total of another batch, a total of 6 hostages next week. So Hamas will release a total of 6 hostages, this week. So Hamas is set to deliver another batch of hostages back to Israel. So it seems that the peace peace between Israel and Gaza seems to be really coming through now. So very big news. We've also gotten some very big news coming from India. So India obviously held its grand military parade in New Delhi, the capital city of India, to celebrate one of the nation's most ironic and spectacular events. So India's, I'm pretty sure it's Independence Day of India, so it's called Republic Day in India. So a grand military parade took place in New Delhi, the capital city, where we could see military equipment including T-90 Russian tanks, hundreds of soldiers, and obviously Su-30 fighter jets and Russian helicopters roar through the city. So you can see here, we can see the Indian military parade on Republic Day or Independence Day. And the next news we're going to be talking about today is coming from South China, where we've got news that the Chinese Coast Guard ships have harassed Philippine vessels while Chinese naval helicopters operated in the area. So you can see this video here in the bottom left corner. We can see Chinese ships trying to ram into Filipino ships, and while Chinese helicopters actually hovered over an unsafe altitude above Filipino inflatable boats. So there's been a bit of a clash in the South China Sea between the Philippines and China. We've also got news today that North Korea has successfully tested a new anti-ship cruise missile. The North Korean leader Kim Jong-un actually reportedly personally attended the missile tests. So you can see here in the bottom left corner, North Korea has unveiled its new anti-ship cruise missile, where Kim Jong-un, the supreme leader of North Korea, personally looked at the test himself. The next news comes today. I've just gotten this literally 5 minutes before I've recorded. We've just gotten news today that Colombia has just turned away 2 US military aircraft with migrants being deported as part of the President Trump's immigration crackdown. And we've just gotten news that President Trump has announced a 25% tariff on Colombian goods in retaliation for Colombia's refusal to accept migrants. So, Colombia has completely refused American deportation jets back into the country, full of illegal migrants who got into the United States illegally. So, Colombia has actually refused to accept them, and now Trump is now putting a 25% tariff on all Colombian goods entering the United States. And that's all the news I've gotten for you today. I am non-seeing news. I'll try and provide you news that medias around the world do not show you. Sorry, I haven't been uploading too frequent. I've just gotten some friends who came over from the UK, and I'm just spending a little bit of time with them at the minute. So thank you very much for your patience, and thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and like, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.